business meeting of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. Thank you for your patience as we have a little delay to start this morning, or this evening. We're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We could now have the reading of the mission statement.
Richmond Community Schools guides students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
And if we could have the reading of the vision statement.
Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Bridget Hazel-Baker to the podium for our celebrations for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you all have enjoyed some of this weather we've had. Great. And it feels great in here today, so we're excited. Tonight we'll be celebrating our Celebration of Excellence winners. We have Shelley Swain from Star Elementary School. She was named the RCS Teacher of the Year and the Elementary Teacher of the Year. Shelley, will you come up here for a second? We also are celebrating Tim Arnold. He's a district e-learning specialist, and he was named the RCS Secondary Teacher of the Year. Mr. Arnold, thank you. And then and Vicki Fisher, she's from the RCS Administration Building, and she was also named the Support Person of the Year. Sheila Hobbs from Community Services at the Baxter Building was named the Administrator of the Year, and she's not able to attend this evening. And also Katie Kitchen from the Richmond High School Alumni Association. She was named the Fund of Education, and she too was not able to attend this evening. So go ahead and come on up, guys. Welcome. I know, kind of being up in front of all of you. So, again, Shelley Swain, Tim Arnold, and Vicki Fisher. I'm just asking questions, just some quick questions. What motivated you to become a teacher, and what continues to inspire you in this profession at this point?
I would say what inspires me to be a teacher is my passion for students. I want to inspire them to discover their strengths, and I also want to eliminate barriers that don't allow them to do that. So what keeps me going is my passion. I love to teach, so that's what keeps me going. And also what keeps me going is what we're discovering in education is not. Like, we're at a really good place to keep getting best practices, so that keeps me very inspired.
All right, Mr. Arnold. Now tell us a little bit, I know being a teacher's been great, but tell us what you have just experienced that you did this past week, helpfully here at Richmond High School.
Okay, so as a e-learning specialist, we've had the pleasure and privilege of putting on a major conference in the state of Indiana. Richmond's been doing it for 11 years, the longest running one in the state of Indiana. I've been involved for 8 of those years. So last Thursday, we brought in enough speakers for 49 sessions. We brought a keynote speaker all the way from Bauxite, Arkansas, which is near Little Rock. I didn't know where that was. And we had well over 200 people in attendance from 51 different school corporations. We had 51 RCS teachers, about 15 building administrators, all of our central office administrators. So we had a really great turnout, really great day of learning.
And then Miss Fisher, she's our rock here at the administration building too, so she's kind of a jack of all trades as well. So Miss Fisher, tell us a little bit of what is a normal day for you? I say normal day in the Eighth Record office. How long have you been with Richmond High School? 12 years. 12 years. All right. So tell us a little bit about how surprised were you when you got that's the nominee and you win the award.
I was honored. There's so many people that they should get the award just like I do. Well, I should say I was nominated, but I'm really honored and just overwhelmed by being selected, actually.
So I think some of the next steps we have is that Ms. Swain, you're moving on to the state competition. Is that correct? And when is that coming up? It's July 5th. Oh, wow. Wow. And then you have to present some sort of portfolio as well, if I understand. Correct. It's a lot of work, from what I understand. Would you guys have any additional questions? Everyone good?
Just thank you. We're happy to celebrate you. We appreciate each and every one of you.
And we appreciate Mrs. Kitchen does so well in the spots for not being.
Oh, yes.
I appreciate everything they've done as well.
Stay where you are with them with full back.
And we'll give them a round of applause.
Bigger.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we'll face him. It's got a big camera. All righty. All right. We have a second celebration as well. So now we will be celebrating 2 Richmond High School shot put athletes who competed at the state meet on June 1st. Please join me in welcoming junior Mason Heine and sophomore Jacob Lindahl. All right, so I had to try to do some AI questions, so let's see what we can do about this one. So what initially sparked your interest in track and field, and at what age did you begin competing?
So what interested me in track and field was really just something to do in the spring. I used to think that I was going to be a football athlete, go D1 all the big schools, but then I started track again, and then I actually showed promise in track and not in football. And ever since then, I've just been ready to work, and I've been ready to get better.
Good, good. And what about you, Mason? What initially sparked your interest in track and field, and at what age did you begin?
So I started track and field in 6th grade. I was a 3-sport athlete, swim, soccer, track, and like Jacob said, it was kind of something to do in the springtime, just to keep me busy. I started in the 6th grade, but then since COVID happened, 7th grade was no go. But then I really started to pick it up 8th grade year, and stuck with it.
Hey, you ready for the next one? I should have given it to you before, but how did participating in track and field help develop important life skills like discipline, goal setting, and perseverance?
I said one of the biggest accomplishments or steps forward I've made is just willing to recognize ignorance. Shot put is, you can be as strong as you want, but you need form in order to throw the ball far. And just being able to know that I'm not perfect and I'm not the best at it, just shows that I'm able to correct myself and get better.
Good. What about you?
Uh,
I will. How did participating in track and field help you develop important life skills like discipline, goal setting, and perseverance?
Discipline to stick with the sport. It's just, sports take time. You need time to develop these skills that we go out and perform every meet or event, and it just pays to put time and have it pay off eventually.
All right, so my final question, now go ahead, Mason, I'm ready to go first. How did your coaches and support system contribute to your success? So do you have anybody here?
Yeah, so
Your support system?
I have 3 coaches here, Mr. Lambright, Mr. Weisson, and Miss Weisson. Mr. Lambright has been the high school track and field head coach 2 years in, yeah, I don't know, 2 years in a row. He's a great coach. He's very supportive. I just got done writing my thank you letter to him earlier today. Mr. and Mrs. Weisson have been there since 6th grade. That's who I first started track and field with. They actually had me practicing sometimes with the high schoolers while I was in 6th grade. So I just stuck with them.
Good. What about you? What do you think? How did your coaches and support system contribute to your success?
Yeah, the coaches are the whole reason that where I'm at right now. My freshman year, we took a different approach to throwing, and it didn't work out. But then once we made that switch, he's been able to help me. Sam Weissong's been able to help me. Mr. Weissong's also been able to help me. And then Lambright's the best supporter around too. Come to every meet, he'll see all your events, no matter what. So that's been great.
So what about family?
Family. No, of course, having a supportive family is always important.
Good.
You know, and she doesn't let me, get down on myself when I do something wrong. She holds me up to a higher standard than that, so I don't let myself get down.
Piggybacking off of that, that never lets me, get down on myself. She always looks forward to the next opportunity that I'll have to compete or anything on that sort of support system. Like she said, she's also the checks that fund the operation.
Well, gentlemen, thank you again for coming tonight. Congratulations. We're excited. We're excited for future success, well, as a sophomore and a junior. So very excited. Thank you for get one more photo. Let's just all right.
The next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a public hearing on the proposed lease agreement for the issuance of bond projects and the additional appropriation hearings. If you're interested in speaking at the hearing on either the lease or the additional appropriation, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet at the back of them, which should include your name and address. After conversation by administration, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the lease rental to be paid under the lease or the additional appropriation. At the hearing, we ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes, and that the topic be limited to the lease rental and additional appropriation under consideration. The notices of this hearing on the lease and the additional appropriation hearing were published as legally required. At this time, I will ask that Attorney Cross or Karen Scout explain the purpose of the hearing.
We have what is known as a lease financing that we talked about for some time now. And that it's important to understand that there are limits in how much debt a public entity can incur, a direct debt. And those limits are in our Indiana Constitution. They used to be roughly 2%. There was some state changes in the way real estate was assessed, so that affected that limit. At the end of the day, your debt limit is what we've been using to do our general obligation debt bonds. Well, we don't have the capacity to do that borrowing now because of our outstanding GO bonds. So we've been allowed by the legislature for many years now to engage in what's known as lease financing. And it's, if you will, it's based upon what I would have to admit is a form over substance fiction that says if you're just indebted to a landlord for your facilities, what your annual payment is considered payment of expenses, not payment or repayment of debt. So the way this is structured is we have identified a lease premises, which is the Dennis Intermediate School, and it will be leased. It will be sold, been appraised, it will be sold by the board to a building corporation that has been created by the board several years ago. That building corporation is a not-for-profit. It will own the Dennis facilities and will lease them back then to schools. Your lease payments will then be what are the sources for repayment of the debt owed to the bondholders, because the lease, the right to receive payments under the lease by the building corp will be assigned to a trustee for the benefit of the bondholders. So the money will go to the trustee, and the trustee will then make periodic payments of interest and principal on bonds as due. We don't know how much that's going to be because we haven't had the bonds out for bids yet. That will occur in the timeline, I think, in early August. So tonight you're approving the form of the lease, and that's basically based on estimated numbers that we trust are high. Maximum annual lease payment would be $3 million that it is for a term of roughly 22 years. That number I expect to go down significantly if the bonds are bid. So that is probably more detail than you need, but that'll allow at least some comments from the questions if there are any from the board. And then I would ask you open it for public hearing before the resolution itself is adopted.
We will now open the public hearing.
Emily Christian. I have to talk to that.
As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed rent to be paid under the lease or the additional appropriation. Keep any comments to 3 minutes and avoid being repetitive if possible.
I was iffy about whether or not I was going to speak, so I didn't plan anything. But I'm Emily Christian, Richmond resident, parent, and but you know, right? Okay. Anyway, my main issue with this is that it was not really public knowledge in any way, shape, or form. I happened to go to the meeting. Hi, Ron. I was the only audience member at the meeting. I asked several people who are usually pretty involved in the community. They had no idea that that meeting was happening. And so I feel like if we're going to make a huge change for dentists especially and that sort of thing, we need to be way more transparent, and we need to let more people know and have a say in what is happening and how money is being changed around. I know that, I mean, Ron knows his stuff and he's doing what he needs to do, but this sounds barely legal to me. So I don't know legality of things, but it just seems a little shady and should be more open and transparent so that more people, if it is completely legal and it is understandable, then explain that to everybody. Make people want this to happen.
For the record, the meeting to which Christian referred was the board of directors meeting of the utility corporation.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't explain that well. I actually didn't know what meeting I was showing up for when I showed up for it. I saw that there was a public meeting and I'm interested. I want to learn more, so I showed up.
Thank you for participating. Are there others signed up?
Not for the public hearing.
Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution authorizing the execution of the lease?
So moved.
I'll second. Have a motion by Stoltz and a second by Zaleski. Actually, it was the other way around. Oh, a motion by Zaleski and a second by Stoltz. Any discussion?
Yeah, question. Ron, how many people were at that meeting? Is that typically?
She's the first one in the 40-some years I've been doing this.
Okay. I wonder, I'm just like.
I really was glad to see her. I was glad to see her. No,
Gotcha.
the meetings are
First one in
they're
47 years?
they're public.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
just.
actually, the
Invite
first
us more.
the first lease facility we did was Turner Center, so that was in 1981, I think, wasn't it? So maybe not quite 40 years.
Okay, but thereabouts.
Close.
Okay, just wondered how well attended those are. Wasn't like, okay.
And how was it advertised?
By open door law and legal notice published. I mean, I agree. Not many people make their way back if they still take a paper newspaper to the legal ads where those things are. But we don't have any choice. That's the way the statute says we have to do it. We also put it on our website, so I think that's probably the much more transparent, if you will, vehicle for informing the public of it. But it is, without a doubt, like I said, it is very legalistic, and I don't expect people to find that it makes sense to say that a $3 million lease payment to pay bondholders is not paying the debt, but that's what the legislature says it is, and that's the vehicle we've been given to make these investments. And let's make it very clear, these aren't, as you've talked about for the last hour and a half in your special session, these aren't necessarily wants, they are in fact needs that are critical to the delivery of services and the betterment of the environment for students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, should I close the meeting before we vote? Is that what I?
Yeah, and close the public hearing and
Okay.
then call the vote.
Okay, so I messed up the order, sorry. This time I will close the public meeting, hearing, and we do have a motion by Zaleski and a second by Stoltz. Any other discussion? Before we vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. We will now open the public meeting in regards to the additional appropriation resolution.
This is a bit of housekeeping that I'm sure has been born of mistakes made in the past when everybody goes through and does everything their lawyers tell them to do, and then they forget they've got the bond money and they want to spend it, they haven't appropriated it. Well, for those who aren't familiar with the legalistic aspects of spending public money, appropriation is a process where you tell people, "I have this money, we're going to spend it for these purposes." You advertise that, and the appropriation itself is nothing more than the permission to spend. It does not obligate you to spend. So it is a precondition to spending the proceeds. In this instance, it would be the proceeds from the sale of the dentist property to the building corporation that you would be appropriating. And so that is the purpose of the additional appropriation resolution.
Thank you. Cindy, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this?
Emily was the only one.
Okay.
For the whole public hearing, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So at this time, I will close the public hearing. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the additional appropriation resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Stoltz and a second by Zaleski. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. This time, we will move on to item 4.04, 4.05, the resolutions. Ron, will you tell us about each of those, or?
These are resolutions that need to be adopted as part of the process. They are not at public hearing, but this is a public meeting, they have to be adopted in a public meeting. The first resolution indicates that this project will be bid by primarily the RCS, the board, and when those bids are received, those that involve work within the scope of the building corporations scope of work will be, those bid contracts will be assigned to them. It's just a matter of following the paper trail, basically, if you would. So this resolution just authorizes the execution of the lease and the sale of the real estate. Now, the real estate itself is Dennis. It has been appraised by two professional appraisers and one resident appraiser. And the sale price must be at least equal to or greater than the appraised value. So the resolution is authorizing the, if you will, the sale of or the assignment of the contracts to reflect the ownership interest and the real parties in interest in the work.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution assigning construction bids?
For you. Okay.
I'm
Great.
sorry.
Never mind.
Okay.
We got our scripts down a little bit different.
Assigning construction bids to the building corporation.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Zaleski and a second by Stevens. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Wait. Before you vote, that's opportunity for public
I'm
comment.
sorry. Cindy, is there any public commentary?
Well, I'll open the floor. This is not a public hearing. They have any questions.
Okay, yeah. If anyone has any questions about the resolution assigning construction bids, this would be the time to. Any discussion among the board on this resolution? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Next is the adoption resolution approving the second amendment to the master continuing disclosure.
This is a very technical requirement that we're bound by under the rules and regulations of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Because this involves a sale of investment products, whether we call it debt, when we pay it or not. The bonds are investment products. The SEC is highly involved. It is necessary that we agree that we will provide certain information to a website that is called MEMMA. That's an acronym for something I really don't know about what it is. But it is a website that is a repository of information about public entities and their finances. That was something we agreed to do back when we originally had our first lease financing, our first debt issuance, I guess, after the Rule 15 became effective. It is the master continuing disclosure undertaking was adopted then, and all subsequent applicable debt issues, we've had to amend and update that. And so this is the amendment that would be incidental to the bond issue that we're considering for 2024.
Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone who would like to have questions about this? Okay, I need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution approving the second amendment to master continuing disclosure undertaking and the third supplement to master continuing disclosure undertaking. So moved.
Second.
A motion by member Stoltz and a second by Stevens. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0.
Yes.
We will now reconvene our regular business meeting. At this time, we have public comment hearing. Cindy, do we have people signed up this evening? We do. For those who wish to speak at this evening's board meeting, the maximum time will be 5 minutes. Please keep your comments fact-based and within the time permitted. Comments are not to be personally directed or abusive. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 9130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, but you will receive a personal follow-up email from the board president.
All right, so we have 3 individuals that are going to come up and speak together. We have Erica Pearson, and we have T. Washington and Debbie Carter, and they speak on the equity policy.
Thank you.
Do you need us to say our names and our addresses again?
No, I don't so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. We are representing the REA Racial Equity Coalition, which is a group of teachers, former teachers, community members, parents who've been meeting over the past 4 years to support and further the goal of this board, which is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to suggest that the board adopt an equity policy. And I think you all received by email to yesterday a suggested draft for that. And you might have the question, why would we need an equity policy when we already have a goal and when we already have non-discrimination and anti-harassment policies? Those anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policies are for legal action and for disciplinary action. But an equity policy is proactive and preventative. It's proactive in finding ways to really include and engage students who are part of groups that have traditionally been excluded. And also the part about being preventive, we're aware that there are many small hurts that people receive over time and they become cumulative. Our Equity Coalition had a listening session with teachers of color from Richmond Community Schools a couple of years ago, paraprofessionals of color. And we've also, members have been present at some times when students were able to speak really openly. And all 3 of those groups said that they had received hurtful comments that didn't rise to the level of taking legal action
are asking for disciplinary responses, or sometimes if there was a request for a disciplinary response, because a teacher hadn't been present and didn't hear what was said or didn't see what was being displayed on a phone, disciplinary action couldn't be taken. And so what we're hoping for is that an equity policy would educate everybody at all levels, administrators, teachers, students, so that they know what the impact of their words and actions are. And also that people know how to be supportive bystanders. We all know about bullying, and that one key is to have the people who usually stand around and say nothing, do nothing. Instead, they step up. If you see something, say something, you do something. And by training students and staff to do that, those things I think will become less frequent. I remember one of the paraprofessionals talked about a situation where somebody said, a staff member said something very hurtful to her. And when the paraprofessional tried to say, please don't do that, there were other teachers around and nobody else said anything. So these are the kinds of things where we can grow, where we can learn more, where we can do better when we know better. And now I'm passing it to Team Washington to talk about our process for working on drafting policy.
That's a lot, actually. Yeah, I'm T. Washington. I'm a teacher at Hibbert for the past 11 years, and I am the co-founder of this coalition that started basically about 4 years ago. So to kind of update the community, we actually had a community forum that a lot of you attended back in January. We had 102 people that attended that meeting, a standing room. It was wonderful. And some of you were there, so thank you for participating in that. But since then, we've had stakeholder meetings. We've had 3, in fact. We met on April 22nd, May 6th, and May 13th. And that working group consists of students, parents, teachers, some of the RCS administrators, and community members. And that took 3 meetings to get from, we had I think over 8 pages at one point, down to a page and a half of equity policy that hopefully that you folks will take a look at, review. Please give us feedback so that we can come back at the next school board meeting and hopefully do a more further presentation about why this is very important. And I will let Debbie Carter, who is part of the NAACP, wrap this up.
Thank you very much. Again, Debbie Carter, just to talk a little bit about what our next steps are, what we're proposing them to be. Well, we did have a great opportunity yesterday to meet with Dr. Wright, members of the coalition, to just talk about the draft policy, to see if he had any questions, we needed to make any immediate changes, and to really talk about what the process is to move forward to implementation of this policy. So I thought that meeting went very well. So our next steps, we understand, are to be a part of the board's working session. So we are requesting some time on your agenda so that we might go through in detail and talk about the draft policy that you have a copy of. And that would be an opportunity for you to ask us any questions, any clarifications, anything, so that we can all leave there with a good understanding of the need and what we're proposing. So again, the coalition is ready to support the board in the efforts that you've already started. You already have a goal of having equity as part of the district's goals. And we're right there with you. We feel like it's very important to do that. So an equity policy would help us to create an equitable education for all of our students. And so that every student will get what they need to be successful in their careers here in school and then also in our community. Being a member of NAACP and also the community, the business community, I hear all the time about the need to have workers who are able to keep up with the technology that our new plants and our new businesses are bringing in. And there have been several times that they're saying they're not able to find those workers. They're not up to par as far as the educational levels are. They haven't even finished school. So we're hoping that this equity policy again will provide what each of our students need to close that gap from our highest performers and our lowest performers, so that we're coming out with more successful citizens, which we need to move our city on and help us to progress. So that's why we're asking the board to support this. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We have
All right.
to sign this and
We do. Next we have, forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Michael, is it Leonard?
Learner.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Michael Lerner. I'm a parent. My daughter Evelyn is a rising junior, and my twins Alex and Amalia are rising eighth graders. I'm also a professor at Earlham, where I teach physics, engineering, and sometimes a little bit of math and computer science, which means sometimes I get wordy, so I wrote things down. So I hear that next year RHS won't be able to offer any physics or environmental science classes, as the teacher who taught those has been moved to Dennis. I'm deeply concerned because in an increasingly STEM-based world, physics is a fundamental science. In fact, there are a lot of high schools that are moving towards a physics-first STEM curriculum where you start with physics and sort of build up biology and chemistry and math on top of that. Beyond that, I don't know, it's hard to overstate how important environmental science is becoming, both in terms of understanding the world and in terms of job opportunities. I'm sending my kids to RHS because I want them to get a great education that prepares them for the world. I know we're facing teacher shortages and curriculum changes, but these seem like pure fundamentals to me. And I'm trying to figure out how I can convince myself that I should continue to send my kids to RHS if we're cutting out environmental science and physics.
thank you.
Next we have Emily Christensen. I'm sorry, Christensen.
You can just call me Emily, that's awesome. Hi, I think we've met. I'm Emily Christian. As far as I know, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher at Peel next year. I'm also a mom of 3 kids at the high school and at Hibbert. I'm here because I saw that Cassie Loudermilk will be leaving as my children's principal. And I feel like this was a sudden move, and I guess I don't know if it was her choice or not, and that's really not my business to know. But I feel like right as everybody is getting settled, both staff, students, and parents, with a principal, she is somebody who I feel comfortable coming into her office anytime that I have a concern for any of my children, anytime I have a joy that I just know that she'll share with me. When I have a joy about one of my students or one of my kids, I know that she will care. It has taken a lot of time for us to get settled with a principal, and I feel like suddenly she's being whisked away and taken right as we're comfortable. She was, from my understanding, she was somebody who the staff was a part of choosing for their building. She is someone who was there for both the students and the staff when one of our teachers passed away. And she is our pillar right there. And I feel like it is important and across the board for all of our principals to have some stability and be able to stay within the buildings where they are loved and where they love working. I also think it's important that our principals are licensed as principals, and she is. She has the ability to work with the high ability students and the special education students. She has that knowledge, and we need that within our building. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last person is Steve Jones.
Steve Jones, principal, Charles Elementary School, the premier elementary school in the state of Indiana. So glad to be here. I would like to have Bridget Hazelbaker come up and join me. I want to celebrate her tonight because we got summer school going. And at one point, I think it was a Thursday night, I called Brent and I said, Brent, I said, I got literally two openings in first grade left. And I got 16 kids or 15 kids to put in. So that night we started moving and we said, why don't we put second grade all over at Star and third grade over at Star? And so I called Bridget. I said, Bridget, can you put it out on Parent Square, all that? And literally the next morning she was there sitting right down. She goes, what do you need me to do? And she started calling parents. I'm sitting there trying to do class lists. We're putting them in a power school, and I think she called every single second grade parent. And it could not have been done in that short period of time because, like I said, we had Thursday, Friday, we started Monday, and she, and by the end, she's like, I left a message for this person, this person, this person, and she goes, everybody else knows they're going to be, and then she started working on transportation.
In the translator.
And translator. So yeah, so I just want to take a couple minutes and celebrate this woman because without Bridget, it would have been, could we gotten it done? Yeah. Would we worked all weekend? Yeah. So Bridget, thank you so much. You were awesome. So
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Next, we have consent items 6.01 through 6.05. Looking for a motion.
I'd like to move, we accept them with the stipulation that the change of assignments on the addendum are tabled. They're not on the computer, so that whole section on the addendum would be tabled, and then everything else would be accepted as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, a motion made by Mr. Weber and a second by Zaleski. Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, John, did you want to explain at all what your thought is on the motion?
Primarily, all this information came today or yesterday, and I think it needs more time to process. And none of the dates, I think all these people, there's a few hires that are above that and below, but I think in that change of assignment, all these people are currently in the corporation. I think we can live till our next meeting to make the final recommendation or approval. So we just can't process information that way.
Any other questions or discussions?
So basically just feeling like it was too rushed is the.
We didn't get any of the support documentation until 2:00 this afternoon. The salaries and whatnot, that didn't even come till 2:00 this afternoon. That I shared with the public.
It's not on, the names aren't, so the addendum's not on the board docs. So I presume it's still relative because we have to think page.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call. Stoltz.
Nay.
Zaleski.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Brand.
Nay.
Brunton. Nay. Stevens.
Nay.
Pickering.
Aye.
Okay, so motion is denied 4-3. Okay, do I have any other motions? I guess I need a motion.
So I move that we accept the consent items as they stand.
And a second.
Would you please amend that to consent items as the agenda?
Oh, sure.
So I have a motion to approve the consent items with the addendum, and I need a second.
Second.
A motion by Stoltz and a second by Stevens. All those I think I'm probably gonna just do a roll call. Stoltz.
Aye.
Zaleski.
Nay.
Weber.
I abstain.
Brand.
Aye.
Broughton. Aye. Stevens.
Aye.
Pickering. Nay. So I have 2 nays and 3 ayes. No, I don't. No, I have 4 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstain. So motion passes. Okay, next are the action items. And the first item is the contract for the Fairview structural repairs. And so I need a motion to approve the contract with BCR Inc. Hunt Construction Inc. for the Fairview structural repairs.
I move to approve 7.01, the contract with Fairview Structural Repairs is presented. Second.
Motion by Stevens, a second by Zaleski. Any questions or comments? Any questions about this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next are the donations. And we have a nice list of, as we always do it, those who are donating. So I need a donation approval in the amount of $5,572.12 as presented.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion by Zaleski, a second by Brand. Questions or comments? We have a nice list of people who are donating to many different areas, our schools, from sports to RHS Skills USA to scholarship funds. So thank you to everyone who is donating. We appreciate you and your donation. We have a list displayed of all those who are donating, so each and every one of you we appreciate.
May I ask a question, just for clarification? At the bottom of the list of donations, fourth one up, there is a Barbara. It comes across as being a Millman. Is that correct spelling?
I copied and pasted from what the high school sent me. So I am hoping that that is correct spelling, but I can double check.
I know someone by the same name, but it's a T instead of an L. Just wondered.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next is action item 7.03, which is the adjunct teacher salary schedule for the 2024-2025 school year.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion by Zaleski, a second by Brand. Questions or comments?
This is a little different than we've done in the past, so Dr. Wright, maybe Melissa, Ms. Clark can kind of explain the change in process from
Stacy.
I can explain,
Stacy.
yeah. Right, I think
Somebody down this line.
let me give it a shot. So this board approves all the contract, master contract. They approve our salary schedule for non-certified. I think this is probably the only salary that this board hasn't approved before, so we felt like it was important that you guys knew the salary schedule for our adjunct. So it wasn't, and this is something that's still very new. I think it's only been going on for a couple of years. So we felt like to be transparent, we need to let you guys know, let you vote on.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. The final action item is 7.04. The recommendation that we approve the Currently agreement for employee assistance program as presented.
I move to approve 7.04, the CareLink agreement is presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Stevens, a second by Stoltz. Questions and comments?
Yeah, I had one. So in regards to this, it looks like it's $2.13 per employee per month. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And that's regardless of who uses it or how.
Correct. So if I'm the employee and I've got 12 kids, they're all eligible to use it, along with my spouse. So it's just per employee, and I think it's quarterly that they'll do an assessment of who our employees are. So that way, that price may change varying. So what that does, that eliminates us from putting in names and then taking those out, putting back, somebody else in as they get hired, and then you've seen the list that we use for hires and for people leaving. So it eliminates that. It's just for the employee count, and I believe it's quarterly.
Okay. And it's 6 times per year, though, is how many, like?
Correct.
Like,
I believe it's per event, and it's teletherapy. But this also offers a lot more. There's sorry, Ron. There's a little bit of legal advice that can be had, but it's just very short, and it's probably just. I can't speak to what it would provide you. There's also financial advice. They have a library of materials if you're having issues that you can call them up and they can make those available to you. If you're having them, not within Richmond Community Schools, but if my spouse was having trouble with somebody that she was working with, she would be eligible to get some kind of counseling on that and how she might handle difficult here. So it really goes well beyond the scope of what we're accustomed to. They're also going to offer us a lot of advertisement, a lot of information to our employees so they know what's available there, because that'll be the tough part is a lot of times when we feel like we need some help, we should have gotten it 6 months earlier or 3 months earlier. So hopefully this will kind of circumvent a little bit of that and get help early.
Thanks for fleshing that out, because should we pass that, I think it's important for people to know what we have access to.
Correct.
I have a quick question. So generally I see these sort of rolled in with the medical plan. So I'm assuming we sort of have always had a separate agreement for AAP.
And this is because we have 366 people in our medical plan, but we've got a whole lot more employees than that. So they weren't eligible. We still have the counseling available for those who do have our medical plan.
Okay.
And that's a separate thing. So that gives you really have 2 now that you can choose from. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Do you have one other question again? So that our employees know. So if they were to utilize, the counseling services, I'm assuming, but want to clarify that is confidential, not just what's said, but the fact that they are using.
Absolutely. And this really makes it even easier because we pay that up front. And so we aren't billed for somebody had a session.
Yes.
And then we didn't even know. But, if I'm going to go through that, I might think, you know what, they're billing for that. Who knows if my name's attached to it or not? And so we don't have to worry about that at this time. It is completely confidential. And it's 24/7. 7 days a week, and I think they have a master level therapist or that answers the phone, and they said they have a rate of how long it takes for somebody to answer, and it's below 5 seconds. I mean, it is quick. 24/7.
If I could add one thing to that, just that is a huge comfort, the last part, as someone who's responsible for adults. So sometimes what will happen is we'll get a call from a principal about an employee who has come to them really shaken up, concerned, whatever. And our current setup doesn't allow for instant access and availability at all times, and you can't plan for when that's going to happen. So, and there's like sleepless nights when you're wondering, was somebody contacted? Did they reach out? Were they available? And to know that we can instantly connect them, like for me is such a huge relief to know that, man, we've connected them to support. That's a big deal to me. So anyway, I just want to say that because from this side, that's a great feeling to know that we've responded appropriately to someone who's struggling.
No, I mean, mental health is such an issue. Even, dare to say a rising issue even still. So I want to feel like we're providing quality care for our employees.
I really feel like this is a huge benefit
Okay.
for every employee, whether it's a teacher, administrator, a para's child would be eligible for this.
Great. Any other questions or discussion? Thank you for that added information. We have a motion by Stevens, a second by Schultz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next will be our policy review. The first policy we will look at for a second reading and final approval is 8.01, policy 0132.2, administrative authority. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion from Zaleski, a second from Stoltz. Questions or comments about that policy? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next would be policy 8.02. I'm sorry, not policy 0142.3, orientation, second reading and approval.
I move to approve 8.02, policy 0142.5, orientation on second reading. Second.
I have a motion by Stevens and a second by Zaleski. Questions or comments? I had a question. I think the wording for G is off because A through F begins with an article, A or the. And so it just doesn't fit in. Or, sorry, it's technicality, but it should be maybe how we have the X next to the last line, the board shall encourage the attendance of each new board meeting and other work. And then we should have another item below that with an X that says, the new board member will be registered for the ISBA New Board Member Academy. That would flow with how this is written so far, in my opinion.
So change G to that.
Mhm.
If you want to amend I can do that if you want to amend the motion in a second. So you wanted to say the new board member will be registered? Okay.
But it shouldn't be G. It would be maybe, see where the X is for the workshop. Yeah, so it would be another item. I don't know if those should be 1 and 2 or whatever, but somehow it should be distinguished. I don't know how others feel about that, if that makes sense or.
Yeah, I think the intent was just, we were literally, see my notes, we were going down and adding like what we wanted to be included in that. So however it makes sense. Yeah. And that will be, the G will be an action item for Cindy. I think, Nicole, did you ask about that? Because, for example, especially members that come in midterm, that we just automatically, or Cindy would register us for the next board member academy or whatever is coming up.
Erin, would you be willing to alter your motion and Nicole your second to reflect those changes we just discussed? Likewise. Okay. Great. So approval with the changes, motion by Stevens. I think it was Zaleski.
I think it was,
Sorry.
but I was like,
I wrote it down.
That's fine.
I did. Okay. And the second by Zaleski with those changes. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next. Item 8.03, policy 0164, the new bylaw, notice of meeting, second reading and approval.
I move that we approve policy 0164. The new bylaw, notice of meetings, notice of meetings.
Second.
Motion by Stoltz, a second by Stevens. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Vote passes 7-0. The last item on this update is 8.04, Policy 0165, replacement bylaw, board meetings.
I move to approve 8.04 policy 06165 replacement by law on second reading.
Second. The motion by Stevens, a second by Stoltz. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 7-0. Next on our agenda are highlights and discussions. We will begin with the data analysis report.
President, trustees, Mr. Brent Baker and Mr. Mark Collins, our chiefs of elementary and secondary education, will be now presenting data findings from this past 23-24 school year and updates from their last fiscal year. Gentlemen.
And just so you know, I know Mr. Weber, Trustee Weber likes brevity, so I have 7-minute clock over here. We're both going to do it in 7 minutes. And I also know compare the data to the state average. So 2 things I found. Mr. Weber.
Quick. All right, in my best auctioneer voice. No. I want to talk first about end of year data for iLearn. I think for the first time that since I've been here in RCS, Charles Elementary tested above the state average in every in 3rd and 4th grade language arts and math, and also on the iRead assessment. But right there with them was Crestdale. Crestdale was at or above the state average in over half of those as well. The other buildings have some work to do, but it wasn't maybe this time last year where Crestdale wasn't in that situation, and Charles was not in that situation in every tested subject. So just want to let you know, both those schools did an outstanding job on the iLearn assessment this spring. We did show improvement, like I think I told you before, in math and language arts in 3rd and 4th grade and across the district. So that is that's a positive.
Can you say that one more time?
We showed improvements in math and language arts in both grades 3, 4, 5, 6,
And 7.
and 7. Yep. So in
Maybe
math
the
and
third
language
time.
arts. Yeah.
Like, high fives.
Yeah. Yep. So still not where everybody wants to be, but we're working towards it. Yes. Attendance. We put a big push last summer on attendance, and your attendance matters in Wayne County. And as a result, every building's attendance student attendance increased this year, with the exception of Charles and Star, and their attendance dropped by less than 1% in each building. I will tell you, CYS's attendance went up 16%.
Well, don't steal all my thunder. Get 3 minutes.
I'll talk faster. I won't tell you about Hibbard then. iReady Math and Language Arts projected proficiency report was comparable to the iLearn results. The one thing that iReady does is they show that our students maybe will underperform, not overperform on what the iLearn assessment looks like. So usually we're more surprised than we are shocked when we get those results. If they say 30% of the kids are going to pass, that number would be higher than 30% typically. So data, K through 4 discipline data. This is a really good info here. The number of student referrals varies greatly between our elementary buildings. Charles had the lowest number of referrals this year with 149. And Vale had the highest with 720. And over the last 2 years, each elementary building, the discipline is maybe ticked down a little bit or ticked up by maybe 100 referrals. And that could be more of a focus on discipline, or that could be, I will tell you, if you teach in a building with 720 referrals, I feel like there's some difficult days in the classroom for a teacher, and the students that are trying to learn, and the teachers trying to, get their students to learn. So that's just something that we really need to keep an eye on. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 elementaries with over 400. 4 of the 6 had over 400 referrals this year. And that's it. Better talk fast.
So I just would like to say, we've shared this report with Dr. Wright, so you'll have access to this, I'm sure, at some point if you want to see this. But I'll try and go fairly quick as well. We tried to focus this to academics, attendance, and behavior as kind of 3 pillars that we really tried to move forward this year. And I'll go pretty quickly with ELA and math on iLearn scores. 5th grade, at test, we saw a 3.5% increase in ELA, 2% gain in mathematics. 6th grade at test, we had an 8% increase in ELA and a 6% increase in mathematics. 7th grade at Dennis, we had an 8% increase in ELA and a 2.5% increase in mathematics. I do have state numbers on here for you, Jeff. 8th grade, we saw a decline almost across the board. So that is something that we'll have to kind of monitor. So 8th grade decreased in ELA 5% and 2% in mathematics. 11th grade, I want to make sure I include the high school. We saw 10% growth in the SAT on ELA and 2.5% growth in math. And also the SAT numbers, we are very close to state averages in both math and English. So those increases put us really, really closely aligned to the rest of the state. Attendance, we did see some increase in attendance. The one lone building that we did not see increased attendance, which was at RHS. But Hibbert increased from 82% attendance to 94%, so that was a huge jump for them. Test went from 91 to 91.5. Dennis increased from 92.7 to 94%. CYS went from 62% to 78% attendance, which, as we know, those are the most challenging students to get to school. So Ms. Hobbs, our Administrator of the Year, did a wonderful job with her team and being creative with getting kids to school. And then RHS declined from 92% to 89%. Discipline at the secondary level is very different in terms of referrals. The numbers overall are very high, but what is really, really fantastic is we saw decreases at every single secondary building with the exception of Hibbert. And I think what we all understand now with Hibbert is when you put a genetic program into that building, we're going to see some different behaviors and referrals increase. I would like to say that Mr. Hensley and Ms. Loudermilk did a really, really good job of figuring out what the behaviors were when they were happening. We do have access to Swiss data. I don't know how familiar you are with Swiss data, but it is a data source from PBIS, which is positive behavior. And so what it allows us to do is we can actually drill down to figure out what time of day the referrals are happening, what class period. So what that allows us to do, especially in, the youngers, 3rd through 6th, is we can figure out, is there something we need to do with our schedule? Do we need to give them a break? Whatever, because we're seeing a lot of kids at, 11:45 referrals are through the roof. So anyway, improvement across the board in academics, improvement in attendance, improvement in discipline. And I want to talk a little bit about exceptional education for Ms. Markward because she does a wonderful job. Her team works really hard. And the first thing I want to give you is kind of 2 numbers that you may or may not be aware of. We have 1,323 students who are special education students in this district. That's a lot of students. We have 538 EL students. And so the special education students, I have some test data for that. As you can imagine, their proficiency at or above proficiency isn't where our gen ed population would be. But I do want to say this, they have like 99% of their students test for special education, which is a huge challenge. Getting students to test and then go all the way through the test. And our WIDA test, Ms. Jones does that. She did a great job with that. Our scores are improving. We have a lot of work to do on the identification process of that. Our home language survey, I know Ms. Markward is working diligently on that. That's a huge tool in that so that we can, when they walk through the door, have a really good idea of what are the supports you need based on your home language survey. And so I'll wrap it up there, but it was really positive to put this together. I've done a lot of years where I always do green for positive and red for declines, and I've done years where a lot of red, very little green. And this year to see all the green was unbelievable. And so we have a lot of work in our 5-8 buildings to get to the state average. What I would tell you is we are typically about 15% below the state average, even with the gains. And so if I were to pick a number, that's about where we are almost at every grade level. We're about 15% below the state average. Some were closer, some were 17% away, but it was 18 to 19% last year, and now it's about 15% below the state average.
Could you repeat the special ed number, 1323?
Yeah, 1,323 students.
And then the EL was
It's 538.
38. And so are the ELs included? I mean, are there overlaps or?
There could be.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have an EL student special.
And that doesn't, so high ability is not, so this isn't collective exceptional.
No. So I just
special ed,
right.
EL.
Okay, just special ed and EL in terms of that data is very easy for us to access. And when you get into the exceptional ed in the buildings, and I'll leave that to Ms. Markberg, she's the expert.
Yeah. I
but
just was wondering.
I think it's just good to hear how many special ed students there are.
Yeah, a lot.
I know in the district average is about 31%, and that is very high.
It's the largest growing student population
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
have in the corporation.
Thank you.
And just to close, I would simply like to thank the faculty, staff,
Yes.
the students, the stakeholders, our teacher leaders, our building level leaders, central office leaders, and more importantly, you all as board of governance that has allowed us to continue to selflessly serve students and keep students at the center focus. I think of the interventive steps that everyone's taken, of the structures, systems that have been put in motion, we'll continue to build upon those and continue to seek the best results for our students. This is outstanding data. We were, but not the data that we all aspire to.
Questions, comments? Thank you. Appreciate that information.
We'll get a copy then.
Next, any board discussion. I have a few items that I want to bring up. The first, we haven't met since we had graduation at Tiernan and the adult ed graduation at Civic Hall. So I know board members attended that. It was a great celebration. We also, I wanted to report that we had a board retreat with Steve Horton from ISBA a couple weeks ago. And he had a really great retreat for us about a reminder of board rules. And I think before joining the board, I didn't completely know or understand the board rules. And I've had parents or people ask me, for example, on fog delays, why did you make that decision? Or, and so those aren't decisions that board makes. We aren't in the weeds and we're not in the day-to-day activities, and we shouldn't be. And so for reference, we don't make fog delays, snow delays, any of those decisions. We hired Dr. Wright, and who's very capable and experienced to make many decisions, and that we can ask questions and understand about. So our rules of a board are to set the mission, the vision, the goals, financial oversight, community engagement, which we always encourage, and I think all of us get texts and phone calls. We talk to people in the community, so always feel free to do that. We work on policy, just like we did this evening, some of our policy. We hire and evaluate the superintendent, and we monitor the district performance, which we got to hear about this evening. So it was a good, I think, reminder for me, and just wanted to share with the public also that as far as hiring, firing, or those, we don't sit in on interviews, we don't get information, we ask questions, but the team that has been hired does that. We each have other jobs that we do. And so we stick with what our role is, which are the things that I just mentioned. Also, I wanted to mention in the board retreat, and it was public, but we are working on Dr. Wright's evaluation, and we will today after the meeting, and it's a careful process that we are guided through ISBA also through. And we have a rubric with, for measurable evidence that we use. So there's a path that we use every year to evaluate the superintendent. So we're in that process now. I also wanted to share that I was able to visit the I Read Summer School at Star this last week with Miss Jordan and Mr. Warch's class. I was able to read a book about space, so it was exciting to see students. I mean, it's summer and it's hot out, so it's hard to be in school, but boy, they were excited, and he got me excited about what they're doing there. And I got to see Shelley, Swain, who we got to celebrate this evening, and I tried to peek in and say hello, and she was like, she had a small group of students, and she was like, do not interrupt me, because she's very passionate. It was great, and she finished later and then found me, so I got to touch base with her, but she is passionate about teaching, so it was fun to see her in action and the other teachers at Star, so that was exciting. And finally, I just had a reminder for the public that the filing period, if you are interested in running for school board, the filing period ends tomorrow at noon. And so that window is still open at this time, but it closes tomorrow at noon. And we are always looking for school board members who are passionate about education, passionate about kids and families in our community.
And I wanted to give a shout out, Karen, those black blockers look great. I'm excited to see them since in the camera, giving us that little glimpse into what's happening at RHS. So
A lot going on over there.
yes, very exciting. So,
Kristen, on the board election, so Aaron and I are at-large members, and those terms are offset a year. So those that win in the fall election would not take their seat until January 1 of 2026.
It's a strange process. So in a year and a half from now,
18 months.
so that's for your at-large and for
just the at-large.
Okay.
Both Nicole and Austin's seat are districts, and those would turn in January 1, 2025.
Thank you for that reminder. Any other board updates or information? So we'll have the upcoming meeting will be July the 10th. We will have a work session at 5:30 in the old boardroom that we did this evening. So it's a different format. I guess we haven't talked about in this public setting, but we've had our work sessions the first meeting of the month for the last year, and we felt like we needed more of them so that we can have more discussion with the cabinet and pertinent matters going on in our district. So more of a discussion format. So we will have a work session every meeting prior to the business meeting beginning at 6:30. And so July 10th will be our next work session at 5:30, and our business meeting will be here at 6:30. And now we're ready for the bell ringer.
With that being said, President Martin, trustees, and ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker rejoin us for the bell ringer. Let's see.
So band camp starts next week. So those who live on the other side of the gorge are gonna start hearing some music here a little bit. Even though the G Street Bridge is closed, you'll still be able to hear them. And then if you look at your sections, there are T-shirts for sale. So we passed out. Oh, they're in the. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, you'll be getting that packet. But anyway, T-shirts are for sale that have all the band names on them. They're going. The theme is the Jeanette tradition. So some of the music is old school, so it's gonna be really exciting. Richmond High School senior band captain Olivia Dudas designed the shirts. They're very, very impressive. So my celebration is our band. So we have some community members have made some donations of snacks and different things for our students out there. So again, on your packet, you'll also see the dates of all the ice cream social and the Winchester, the drum group that they do, all the competitions. So those will be on there too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This is my last meeting.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. Have a wonderful year.
Definitely.